A deep unease settled in my gut the moment I stepped back into my own house, a feeling so cold and certain it compelled me to stage my own disappearance just to uncover the truth festering within my walls. For 40 years, this place had been my sanctuary. But that day the air felt different, heavier. My study, a room I knew better than my own reflection, was the epicenter of the wrongness. The legal pads on my desk were shifted a fraction of an inch. My chair was angled wrong, and the lock on my private filing cabinet, it had fresh, minute scratches around the keyhole. My pulse hammered in my ears as I crouched down. The scratches were amateur, the work of someone impatient. Inside, nothing was missing, but the order was all wrong. My will was tucked beneath insurance documents. Financial statements I kept pristine now had faint smudges in the margins. Someone had been through my life with a fine-tooth comb, trying to put it all back just right and failing. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I was just a tired old man. But 30 years as a criminal court judge had honed an instinct in me, a radar for deception that was now screaming a silent alarm. The only question was, who? Dinner that night was a masterclass in quiet tension. My son, Liam, and his wife, Clara, made pleasant chatter that felt as thin as the china. Then Liam cleared his throat. "Dad, have you given any thought to updating your will lately? Just to be safe, you know?" My fork froze midway to my mouth. I set it down carefully, the click echoing in the sudden quiet. I looked at my son, truly looked at him. His eyes darted to Clara, then back to me. Too quickly. "At your age," he added, the words hanging in the air like a threat. Clara leaned in, her smile warm but her eyes like chips of flint. "We only want what's best for you, Arthur. Clear paperwork prevents so much?" Confusion later on, I said nothing. Just resumed eating, letting my silence become a weapon. They had no idea the trial had already begun in my mind. That night, sleep was impossible. My own son? The boy I'd taught to ride a bike, whose law school tuition I'd paid? Was he really sitting in my living room, plotting to have me declared incompetent? The house was worth a fortune. The life insurance, my investments. It was more than enough motive for someone without patience. By dawn, my path was clear. They wanted me gone? Fine, I would vanish. But I wouldn't go to the Grand Canyon like I'd let slip. I would go to war. They saw a frail old man. I would show them the judge. 2 days of meticulous planning later, I was checking into a roadside motel under a false name. The performance for Liam and Clara was perfect. The enthusiastic packing of hiking gear, the detailed map of a road trip I'd never take. I watched them wave from the porch in my rearview mirror, their relief palpable. The moment I was out of sight, their postures changed, their celebration beginning. Little did they know I was circling back, a ghost returning to his own haunt. I parked 3 blocks away and slipped into the vacant house across the street, the one with the realtor's lockbox whose code I'd memorized months ago. The air inside was stale and still. I set up a simple folding chair by the front window, raised my binoculars, and trained them on my own home. And I waited. For 3 days I documented their movements. The comings and goings, the lights flicking on and off. I saw confidence growing in their steps, a ownership of my space that made my blood run cold. But I was missing the crucial piece, the undeniable proof. Then, on the 3rd afternoon, I heard a soft footstep behind me. I spun, heart in my throat, ready to explain my trespass. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Gable. She stood there, a frail woman in a knitted shawl, her expression not of surprise, but of grim solidarity. "I've been watching you watch them, Arthur," she said, her voice steady. "I know what they're doing." She moved to the window and pointed a bony finger. "The man in the suit, he came again today? He's a real estate agent, Arthur. They're not just robbing you. They're selling your home out from under you." My breath caught. She pulled a small, neat notebook from her pocket. Dates, times, descriptions. A meticulous record of my family's betrayal. "Why are you helping me?" I asked, my voice rough. Her eyes clouded with old pain. "I let my own family take everything from me before I passed. I won't stand by and watch it happen to you. Trust is a fortress." And they had already scaled the walls. She looked at me, her gaze intense. They're getting bold. They think you're hundreds of miles away. Tonight you will see it all. We sat together, in the dusty silence of that empty house, two old sentinels keeping watch as the sun bled out behind the mountains. The neighborhood fell asleep, light by light, until only my house remained a beacon of false life. Then, at 11:47 p.m., headlights cut through the darkness. A black sedan pulled into my driveway. A man in a suit emerged, briefcase in hand. Luis Chavez, real estate. My front door opened before he could knock. Liam ushered him inside. Through the living room window, I saw them gather at my dining table. Clara produced a folder, my red folder, from the violated cabinet. They spread papers across the surface. I raised my phone, my hands steady as stone, and began to photograph it all. The meeting, the document examination, the nodding heads. Then the glasses came out, champagne. They were toasting in my house, over the plot to dismantle my life. I could barely make out their voices through the cracked window. If the power of attorney holds, Chavez said, we close on the 18th. Cash offer, $650. My blood turned to ice. Power of attorney. I'd signed no such thing. It's legitimate, Liam's voice carried across the still night. My father signed it. The lie was so absolute, so brazen it stole the air from my lungs. They were selling my home with a forged document, and my son was vouching for its authenticity. I had everything I needed. The evidence was damning, but it wasn't enough for confrontation. It was enough for annihilation. The next day, while they were out, I returned to my own home. I went straight to Liam's temporary office and found the red folder. There it was, the power of attorney, dated after my alleged trip with a signature. That was a clumsy imitation of my own. But then I found something else. Printed emails. Clara was corresponding with a man named Marcus. Once the sale closes and I have my share, one read, I'm taking the kids and coming to you. Liam has no idea. The betrayal was a multi-layered poison. He was betraying me, and she was betraying him. I photographed every damning page. Then I went to work. I visited a notary and signed a sworn affidavit stating I had never granted any power of attorney. I met with my bank manager and placed a formal freeze on any real estate transactions concerning my property. Finally, I hired an attorney to place all my assets into an irrevocable trust, backdated to a month before their forged document. The legal fortress was now impenetrable. Their power of attorney was worthless. I returned home early from my trip, playing the part of a confused, weary old man. I let them suggest I was becoming forgetful, even secretly recording them as they crafted their narrative of my cognitive decline. He doesn't even remember signing. I heard Liam tell Clara through their bedroom door. Perfect. They were digging their own grave with every condescending word, creating evidence of their fraudulent intent. The day of the closing arrived. I walked into the escrow office at 2 p.m. sharp, my lawyer by my side. The look on their faces, the sheer, unadulterated panic was a verdict in itself. This transaction is fraudulent, I stated, my voice echoing in the plush conference room. I presented the affidavit, the trust documents, the photos, the recordings. I played Clara's voice for everyone to hear. If he challenges anything, we cite cognitive decline. The buyer stood up, furious. The escrow officer shut it down immediately. The house of cards they had built came crashing down in a heap of public shame and legal consequences. In the end, the law did its work. Liam confessed. Clara turned on him. They were charged, convicted, and evicted. I stood on my porch and watched them load a rental truck. The life they tried to steal from me now in boxes. He begged for forgiveness at the door. I looked at the man my son had become and said the hardest words of my life. You made your choice. Now live with it. I closed the door and I locked it. I lost a son that summer, but I kept my home, my dignity, and the unwavering belief that justice, however painful, must always be served. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to Wines of Thought for more tales of truth and consequence. Let us know in the comments what you would have done in my situation.